Hi, I'm Samantha and I have cancer. This is gonna be so awkward. I am going to be explaining the story of how I found out that I had breast cancer. I don't know why I'm like really nervous right now. I made this new channel. I don't know if I'll end up like using it fully, but I made it so that I can document the process of all of this stuff that's gonna be happening to me, and so that I can look back on it, and also so that my friends can see it because they have questions, and then also if like for some reason other people are watching this and it helps them. People keep telling me that I should write a blog, but I'm really bad at writing. And the one thing that I'm worse at than writing is talking, so it only makes sense that I'd be doing this instead. Anyway, let's get right into it. So, it's February 15th, 2019. It's Friday night, the day after Valentine's Day. And everybody's over for dinner at my parents' house. My sister and her husband and her 2 kids and my boyfriend Gray and my younger brother Scott was home from college for the weekend. And we were just having like a Valentine's Day celebration because my mom does that and it's fun. Around 9 o'clock everybody left, so only Gray and I are left in the main family room, and we just turn on Netflix. I'm gonna try to make this not sound weird because it's not weird at all actually how it happened, but whenever I say that Gray found the lump, he thinks it sounds weird. You know, I'm making it weird by explaining that. What happened was, we were sitting and watching Netflix, and Gray was like behind me, and he was hugging me from behind, and he just started like squeezing tighter and tighter. I don't remember why, probably because he likes me or something, and I'm like, okay, stop, you're hurting me, because like I just felt some pressure like in my left breast, and I was just like, it's not really anything weird, because I mean sometimes your breasts are sensitive. I feel it and I'm like, oh, there's like a big bump and it's kind of warm. Then Gray's just like, what's going on, like is there something weird? You need to get that checked out. And I'm like, calm down, I'm fine. I can't really do anything on a Friday night. Like, I'm not gonna like go to the emergency room because I just found this. So I'm like, if it's still there on Monday morning, then I'll make a doctor's appointment. So at this point, I'm not even thinking that I have cancer. Like, it's not even in my head at all because I'm 22 and I have like no risk of it. It's Monday morning, and I remember being really excited because it was President's Day, so I had work off, so I didn't have to like figure out like scheduling a doctor's appointment and like getting off work and all that. So I was like, great, I'll just go into the doctor today. So I go in, she starts asking me all these regular questions that they normally ask, like family history of breast cancer and how long this bump has been here and all that. And then she goes to examine it, and she starts feeling around, and she's like, yeah, you've got like a lot of cysts in your breasts, and it's totally common for young people to have that, and it doesn't like increase your risk for breast cancer at all, and this is just like a totally normal thing. And she's like feeling the bump, and she's like, oh, so like this is really round and I can move it around with my finger or whatever, and so this is just probably a cyst. But she takes kind of a second look at it and she goes, you know, it is like really warm. It could be an infection of the milk ducts. That's like a very common thing that happens for women who are breastfeeding, and I'm not breastfeeding, so it's weird that I would have it. And she's like, did you come in here because you were worried about cancer? And I kind of looked at her and I was like, alright, I don't really appreciate your tone. You think I'm some 22-year-old that's come in here panicked, worrying about cancer. I was like, no, I came in here because I noticed this and it's uncomfortable and I'd like to do something to get rid of it. And she was like, oh, well, okay. And in the moment that satisfied me enough, but like there's so many more things I could go back and say to her now. She just is like, alright, so it's probably just like infection, take ibuprofen to reduce the swelling and try to like apply some warm compresses 2 to 3 times a day. The main number one thing to get rid of that kind of infection is to keep breastfeeding, because the baby will like suck out the bacteria. Alright, so I don't have a baby, so this isn't gonna work. She told me to call her back on Friday and give her an update on how things were going. I don't think that it's getting smaller at all. And she's like, okay, well, if you really don't notice anything different, then I'm just gonna go ahead and order the antibiotic for you. So Here's a spoiler for you. Amoxicillin doesn't kill cancer. They call me on that next Monday, the 25th, and they're like, hey, how's the antibiotic going? And I'm like, nothing's happening. And they're like, okay, well, it's for 10 days, so just keep taking it. So the next day, that Tuesday, they call me and they're like, so do you still notice nothing? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, well, we'll order you an ultrasound at the hospital. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But apparently they don't, or something, and like they like put in the paperwork and it takes forever. The hospital's like, okay, well, the earliest we can do is Monday, the next Monday, March 4th. I go into the room for the ultrasound, and it's the first time I've ever had an ultrasound before, and she's like putting the gel on and moving around, and she's clicking things and taking pictures of stuff, and I have no idea what any of it means. Then she's like, okay, the radiologist is going to look at it right away and determine if we need to do anything else. So the radiologist guy comes in, and he's like, hey, I've never seen cancer in a 22-year-old before, so since it's not that, these are all the other things that it could be. We're going to have you have an appointment with our breast surgeons. This isn't really urgent, like you can come back later and do this at any point. And I'm just kind of like, well, I'm here today, so like, can I have the appointment today? And they're like, yeah, so we'll just like go down and see if they can see you. So I go down to like the breast surgeon person. She's like, oh yeah, there's like totally something. And then she does an ultrasound again, and she's just like, yeah, to be able to figure out more of what it is, we need to do a biopsy on it. And there's two different types of biopsies that you can have. You can have one where we just get cells, and one where we get like tissue or something. And the one where we just get like cells from it is less invasive, and you can just like go to work the next day and nothing will be an issue. But the other one has like a little bit more restrictions, so I think we're just probably gonna do the cells one because that just seems easier for you. It didn't hurt like a ton, but I was just kind of like, wow, this actually like hurts, because like she had like this needle, and she's like going like this like multiple times to try to like get stuff, and she's like still going, and I'm just like, ah. She's like, it'll probably cause some bruising. At this point I'm starting to get like a little bit worried, because nobody really has like a clear answer. Like no one can look at it and be like, hey, this is what this is. And I still don't think it's cancer, but I'm kind of thinking like this could be something that I have to like get removed. And that's kind of scary, that I might have to like have like a surgery or something, and I have no idea how any of this goes. And she just tells me that they'll get the results of the biopsy in 1 to 2 days. The surgeon called me back Tuesday, the next day, March 5th. She was like, hey, the biopsy came back with atypical cells. So that means that we're probably going to have to get you to come in and do another biopsy. Even at this point, I'm like, okay, atypical cells. I don't really know what that means, but like she didn't say cancer. So that Wednesday morning, Gray took me to the hospital again. Just like go to the surgeon place. She drew me a picture, and she was like, this is the breast, and then this is the milk duct, and this is how cells normally form. And sometimes they start doing like weird things, and they start like breaking out. And she's like, so basically there's like atypical cells that could be cancerous cells. Like there's this one type of atypical cell that's not cancer, and that's what this could be. So I'm just kind of like, okay, so that's probably what it is. But also that's when it kind of hit me, when she started explaining that, because that's obviously when she started to prepare me. Then she did the second biopsy. She has to like numb the whole area, and then she takes like this big like gun thing that she said was kind of like when you get your ears pierced, and like it goes in and it makes like this horrible noise and goes and it like pulls out like a little like sample of tissue, I guess. So that actually hurt less than the one that was supposed to be the less invasive one, but the side effects afterwards are just worse, because I mean, it just obviously they like made an incision, so like it causes way more bruising, and you're not like supposed to lift things over 10 pounds, which is really stupid, because like I don't know what weighs 10 pounds. This biopsy would take a little bit longer to get the results. It could be like 2 to 3 days. But since it was Wednesday morning, they could have the results by Friday. She said, I'll just make an appointment for you to come back on Friday. So I went out into the waiting room because that's where Gray was. So we got into the elevator. I think that's when I like cried. But it was so short. I just kind of was overwhelmed just because of what they had done. Like, it didn't hurt me or anything. It was just like the fact that like I had an incision, like, and they like put a gun into me. So it was kind of a stupid thing to cry about. I wake up on Thursday and I work from home again because there's still like a ton of swelling. My mom calls me and she's like, hey, how do you format stuff on Google Docs? Steven, who's my older brother, sent me a resume and he needs help editing his resume. So I'm explaining all this stuff about Google Docs to her. And I'm like, I really don't care about any of this because I'm trying to work. Then the breast surgeon calls me and she's like, hey, are you at work right now? Is this a good time to like discuss the results with you? And I was like, yeah, I'm working from home, so like whatever, like you can tell me. And she was like, okay, so it does look like there were some cancerous cells. And I was like, oh. And she was like, yeah, so I'm really sorry, but I figured that you wouldn't want to wait till Friday to discuss this, so if you want, you can come in later today. She basically couldn't tell me anything more because I guess they have to like run more tests. I had no idea how serious it was. I'm just like, okay, thanks. Thanks for letting me know. I'll see you at 3:30. I don't know, like, if you could say I was in shock, but it was kind of more, I was just like, this is just the way that it is, and I just like immediately accepted it. I'm back on the phone call with my mom, and she's like, okay, so what'd she say? And I was like, yeah, so they found cancer. And she was like, well, what else? And I was like, well, that's all the information that they have, and they said that we can come in at 3:30. And she's like, what do you mean that's all they told you? She was just like, okay, well, are you coming here now? And I was like, well, Gray's at class, so we can come there like when I'm on my lunch break. And and she's just like, I think you should come here now. And I'm just like, well, why don't you just like calm down and like I'll just come in an hour. Like it'll only be an hour from now. And then I text Gray. I just like casually send a text message. Would you be able to come with me to an appointment at 3:30 today? They found cancer. He immediately calls me and he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, so I guess they got the results early. And he's like, do you want me to come back? And I'm like, no, you can go to class. I mean, after class though, we should probably go home because my mom wants me to come home. And so Gray gets back from class. Like at this point, like it hadn't hit him yet, and he was just kind of like, is everything okay? And because like obviously like I wasn't an emotional mess or anything. I was just kind of sitting there like no tears. I was just like, all right, this is how it's happening. Like I cried more on the day when they did the biopsy. My best friend Cassie, I think she Snapchatted me about how she had ordered chicken wings and she hadn't eaten all of them. And she packed up the rest in a to-go box, but she had accidentally left that to-go box at the restaurant. She was like, this is the worst day ever. I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I left my chicken wings at the restaurant. And I'm just like, yeah, that sucks. So like I responded back and I was just like, yeah, me too. This is the worst day ever. And she was like, why did you leave your chicken wings? And I'm like, no, I found out that I have breast cancer. And she's like, what? And looking back on that too, that is like probably the worst way to tell somebody because she was in the middle of her class. And I'm just like, obviously like, I didn't realize how much people actually care about me. Obviously, if my best friend told me that they had cancer, I would be like in shock and I would be sad. And if anyone in my family told me that, I would be like, oh my gosh. But since it was happening to me, I was just kind of like, okay, this is me. Like, I don't really care about myself as much as any of these people. So I didn't even think about that because I was just thinking about myself and I wasn't thinking about the fact that like other people care about me. So so after I told her that and she started just like immediately texting me, I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to tell people this in a better way. we went to the appointment, and my mom, my dad, and Gray came. And then the doctor's like, hey, we actually might need to check something out on the ultrasound real quick. She did an ultrasound under my arm because she was looking at like the lymph nodes under there, and apparently it's very common for like cancer to spread to those. She found 2 that looked strange to her, so she was like, we're gonna need to do a biopsy of those. And I was like, ugh. For me, that's the thing that hurts the most, is the ultrasound under the arm. I don't know if it has to do with it just hurts when you're pressing under the arm there, or if it's because of the cancer that's in the lymph nodes there. And so then after that biopsy, I went into the room and I found like my parents and Gray and the doctor there. And it was just silent in there when I walked in. The doctor came in and she explained everything about what they knew. That's when I was kind of just sitting there in that room, like just looking around at like people's facial expressions, being like, wow, like this is really affecting all of these people. Gray was just like holding my hand the whole time, and he says that's when it really sunk into him, because they were going over how I was going to have chemotherapy for months, and then I was going to have a double mastectomy most likely. Haven't had that yet, so I don't know if that's the way that we're going to go. And then radiation. She's telling me if you get a mastectomy, you won't be able to ever breastfeed your children. The chemotherapy can mess up your ovaries. You can go into menopause. You might not ever be able to have children. And I'm kind of like, I never thought about any of this at this point in my life, because I'm 22 and I just graduated college and I just started working at my first job. I was just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to deal with this. And so it was hard watching the other people's reactions in the room, because I knew that they cared and that this sucked for them. So then after that appointment, I went to go get frozen custard at Corbros. Yeah, that's basically the story from when I found my lump bump thingy to when I found out that that was cancer. And so let me know if there's more stuff you want to know about, because I definitely want to make a video about chemo. I actually did go through with freezing some of my eggs, and I want to make a video about that process because it's kind of funny. If you have questions, leave a comment down below and like this video and subscribe, because this is on YouTube and that's what you do. And thanks for watching.